So you're recording it here or recording it onto Facebook?
No, I'm recording it here. So we're all
all right,
live.
okay,
We
so
are recording. And
right.
so this is Fiona Robertson, and I'm doing these little interviews, loose women style, with ladies from all over the world to do with an inside job. Because our worlds are getting much smaller and we're all staying at home. And I particularly wanted to speak to Allison, who is in Italy, Milan in Italy, and she shut down 2 weeks before the rest of Italy, and I'm in the southwest of France, and I think we considered ourselves late, but still the UK and other places have come along after that. But your life changes, but you know, we keep a happy smile on our face. We've got kids in the house, we've got partners in the house. So just seeing how things are working out for Allison over there in Milan. So Allison, hello, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. We, as we were saying just before we went live, we started the ball rolling in Milan, in Lombardia. We started the ball rolling way back on the 22nd of February. So you know, they closed the first week. They closed the schools. They closed museums, the churches, and the cinemas. But apart from that, life kind of went on. So the kids were doing school from home and then still going out in the afternoon to play basketball and whatever. Because really, you know, at that point we didn't know. And frankly, I think 8 weeks down the line, we still don't know what we're facing. So, you know, they started to close things down just to see if it would make any difference. So and it kind of, you know, it's funny because it started off as, you know, this is for a week. We're really, you know, and we were all convinced this is for a week.
Yeah.
It made sense. It was Carnivale here in Italy. So just, you know, the sort of lead up to Lent. So it seemed like a good idea. The schools were going to be closed for a couple of days that week anyway. So let's see what happens. And we kind of took it a bit like that. And then they closed it for the next week. And at that point, you know, we were beginning to see the figures rise and it started to get scary. And we started to take it a little bit more seriously, and we started to actually, you know, as families, take a step back and say, okay, what does that mean for us? And we weren't calling it social distancing at that point. We were, you know, can't even remember. We've been through so many phases of it. But, you know, what does that mean for us, and how are we going to organize ourselves? And, you know, we were saying, you know, we're not scared for ourselves, we're scared for other people. And that's, you know, that's in our family, that's how it started. We're not scared for ourselves, we're scared for we live in a zone that's very residential. And yeah, therefore we're scared for the oldies round about us, let's take care and whatever. And that's, you know, that was how we started. But, you know, still being out and still walking around and still seeing people. And it all seemed, you know, a bit surreal, but really not, you know, not threatening in any way whatsoever. And now 8 weeks down the line, we've been through so many peaks and troughs emotionally within the family. And our life has gone from that, you know, it's still going out to, we just do not leave home. And it's trying to manage life within four walls and manage you know, I've got two teenagers, a 17 today actually. And
congratulations.
Yeah, poor soul. And a 14-year-old, and a husband and work and school and whatever, and trying to manage that and the personalities without losing, you know, without losing the rag. So it's been a kind of interesting journey, really, with ups and downs. And
you're right, it does go in phases. I mean, we are way behind you, as in only going into our fourth week. The UK is only going into its third week. But I do see the phases in that at first you're in denial. Oh, well, okay. And, you know, the schools say they'll shut for a week. And what, really? You're off for a week? Oh, all right. And you think, well, I'll have to adjust my work that week then. And then it goes through and then you kind of go, okay. So we're adjusting. Okay, well, now they're saying, you know, middle of May. Oh, wow, okay. But then you start thinking about crumbs, you know, I'm always working from home, so that doesn't change for me, but we just have to share the internet, you know, because the boys are working on school and they're doing things on the internet for school as well. We're going out as least as possible. At least we can walk around the block. We've got a garden to play in, only do shopping now for once every 2 weeks rather than every week, or just, you know, getting little things when we need. That's probably the thing I miss the most, is being able to just go out and go, oh, need some seeds for the garden. Oh, I just need, you know, you just think it's really not worth it. Why would I bother? So what would you say is the, you only go out for shopping as well, or do you go out for anything?
Yeah, because we don't have any option. We've got the only things that are open are the supermarkets and the pharmacy.
Yeah.
That's all that's open. So there is no opportunity, and if you go into the supermarket, for instance, you can't buy pencils, you can't buy paper, you can't buy a dish towel, because that would go, it's not fair to have that on sale in the supermarket, whereas the smaller shops aren't allowed to sell it. So they've closed it down completely. So there's no unfair, there's no unfair competition going on, which on one hand is fabulous, because God knows when these poor souls can open up again. But on the other hand, after 8 weeks, you do need a pencil. You're going to school every day. You do need a pencil. You do need a new exercise book. These things become essentials.
Yes.
And the seasons change, and kids have grown from grown half a meter in 12 months, and what do you do? And of course, you can buy online, but then you go into that, but do I want to? And the delivery guys here, their priorities are to get things to the hospitals, things to people in need, deliver shopping to old people. Where do I sit with that? So everything changes. Your whole perspective on life changes, and at the same time, you're weighing up living in pajamas. Is that healthy? No, it's not. You go through that. This is great. I can do my work in my pajamas, but actually, is it good for my mind?
Yeah.
No, it's not. And even if it's only getting up and putting on a pair of joggy bottoms and clean your teeth, at least there's some shift in, that was nighttime and this is daytime attire.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, this whole working from home concept, especially for people who haven't done this before. But you and I both said, we just put on a little bit of lipstick because, we're a little bit more casual and those kind of things when we're working at home. So that's the way it works. But it's nice to have that distinction and being able to sort of shut off work. So right now I'm not in work mode, now I'm in home mode. One thing that came up for me probably in the first couple of weeks that I really began to understand was like, wow, it's really down to essentials, and it's really down to not just survival mode, but like, what do I really value? Yeah. What really, really is important to me? So yes, that my family is kind of around me, we're having fun, things are more enjoyable. I even said to one of my boys, the only time I ever played with my parents were when I was on holiday. We played cards, or we did, those kind of games.
Yeah.
But I never spent any time with my parents in that respect. It was never something that we did at home. And I said, look how lucky you are. I mean, we genuinely, some like play games and things, but we play more games now. Play table tennis, or put something out in the garden for them. We made a little gym in the garden for them for pull-ups and push-ups, because we've got teenagers. We've got my two, 13 and 15. We've got Alex's two, my partner's two, 11 and 12. So you've got 4 guys who have an awful lot of testosterone, and I take them for a walk at night time and say, right, take your bikes. Now use your speed. You use up that testosterone, use up that energy.
Yeah.
Yes, but we went for it. And I said, no, it's different than using up all that kind of headspace.
Yeah, and that's something we don't have we're just not allowed to go out.
Okay.
So we're not allowed to go out and exercise. We're not allowed to leave home. There's a very grey area that says you can move within 200 meters of your own home. However, people who have been caught 200 meters of their own home and are obviously exercising have been given fines. So it's written in paper, but what's written down and what isn't, and it's really difficult for for instance, my son is a huge, he plays basketball, he trains 3 times a week, he plays matches at the weekend. So he is used to burning a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And and he's the one that suffered most, in as much as he's the one that I can't get to do anything. He's just gone to the other side. And I tried, and this is something else that's really important for us parents to understand is, we know what's best. We know what they should be doing, but we have to, at some point, we have to take a step back and say, okay, this is your thing, and this is you managing your own head.
Yeah.
For days, for weeks, actually, we were saying, come on, let's do something. Let's do some exercise, sit-ups, push-ups, something.
Anything.
And he just can't. He just doesn't want to. And we've got to respect that. At a certain point, we've got to respect that and let him find his way through it. That's been a huge learning for me in as much as, we're four almost adults all living in the same house. And we've got to, in the same way as I need to respect the space that I need, I've got to give them the space. And if he's telling me, absolutely, I don't want that, I'm not prepared to do it. Even if I think it's wrong, I've got to take a step back and say, okay, whatever.
I think, when it's 2 weeks, you can think of it as a bit like a holiday. Yeah. So, well, I'll tolerate that. And after that holiday, a lot of women will turn around and say, I need a break now. Whew. Because I've been managing and looking and arranging the food and all the rest of it. But, once it's gone past 3 weeks, it's like, it's not a holiday anymore. So where are you in all of that? How do you build the sanctuary around you? How do you put the boundaries for you and kind of go, actually, I need to respect myself and I need to show others that I'm respecting myself. So how have you done that over the last week?
Funnily enough, having teenagers in the house is the best learning ever, because you watch them. They're very, very good at it. They know what space they need and they're prepared to take it. So, they take themselves off the rooms, they close themselves in their rooms, they take the time that they need, and then they come back into the family when they're ready to give something to it. So actually watching them has been okay, well, that's what they're doing. I need to do the same thing. I need to give myself the same respect that they're giving themselves.
Yes.
So we have found that as a family, we're spending a lot more time separately.
Yes.
Or percentage time, if you like, separately. But it also means that we spend a lot more time together. But we do respect, so, if they go into their bedrooms, we let them be. And if I go into my bedroom and close my door, nobody comes to, nobody comes into my.
Yes. I actually now say I am going for a meditation. I don't know how long I'll be, because if I fall asleep, then I fall asleep, and that's what my body needs.
Yeah. So I think it's exactly that. It's kind of, I always said, one of the biggest learnings I ever had when I had my kids was, oh my God, I thought I was going to have to teach them how to live life. And actually watching them, I learned so much if I'm willing to. And it's exactly, this situation that we're in now, I learned so much from them. Yes, of course, we've got the more mature minds and we can guide them a little bit and we can give them ideas and whatever. But they know intuitively how to look after themselves and how to protect their space.
Yeah.
That's.
But they're great. I also find that guys are better at that than girls. Certainly the women that I speak to, we're so used to sort of being of service and helping and mothering and all those kind of things. One thing that I did for my family was I do something when I coach people to do with their love language, because unless you know what fulfills you, so I know for sure I'm quality time. I'm not a group person, and I know that words are very important to me. But then, when you're in a close, confined space like that, you need the touch and you need the hugs, and sometimes they get that from their friends, or sometimes they get that from their girlfriends or something. And, all those little pieces can be missing. So I asked them to take the quiz. When they took the quiz when they were tiny, it was all about presents. It was all about gifts, And now as they've grown up and matured a bit, I was able to see what was really valuable to them, and thinking, probably haven't given them the quality time that they really need. So I've been doing that a little bit more as well, because they both worked out to sort of really, really value quality time. But then there's quality time, words, service, gifts, and touch. They're the 5 basic love languages. Maybe you have 1 or 2 that are predominant to you. But once you know who you're living with, you can kind of go, yeah, they're kind of missing quality time. So maybe you'll pull them off to one side, or do something, or cook with them, or do something specific so that you get that. And you'll know this, Alison, because you're into relationships and things. But, guys really work better when you're talking to them side by side, not face on. So when you're washing up or cooking or something like that with them, I used to find it really good to be driving with them when they couldn't escape. But, when you're side by side, they don't take it as a threat, and they open up and they tell you all sorts of different things. Have you sort of worked through any of those kind of things as your family has gone on?
I have to say, nothing as organised as you. And again, maybe it's because, we just brought our lives from school and work into the house. So, our routine really is just exactly the same. And I have to say, one of the things that, I'd rather be nowhere else than here in Italy when I hear how other countries are managing it. But, our lives are exactly the same. So we're on holiday at the moment. We're all on holiday. It's Easter Monday. Tomorrow we all go back to school and work again.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot less time available to do that, and also a lot less need of it, because one of the things that my son yesterday was complaining about, for instance, was these bloody teachers, they keep making us do these group projects. I mean, we've never done group projects before. Why are they making us do them now in the afternoons? Well, very simply because not everybody is in the position to ask their friends to FaceTime them. So, you've got some quiet and shy people who are not going to be able to reach out quite as easily. And the teachers are managing that situation beautifully, because they've got a situation where you've got to come together. And as you say, you've got to spend time negotiating who's going to do which part and who's going to do the other. So, they're really actually been incredibly clever. So, where we're failing as parents, maybe the schools are picking up and vice versa. So I have to say, they've really, not every school, and maybe they're lucky, but, from that point of view, I think they have most things covered in their lives, and then we're here to pick up the pieces.
I find it interesting, that they have this a new way of contacting. They're all using this particular
house party.
Yeah, this application where, and one of my sons is now kind of like, oh well, can I ring Amy because she wants some help with her homework, and now he has a set time that he helps her with her maths homework or something, because he's good at that,
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, of course, and it helps him. And I said, well, maybe you could help some other people too, or what's your weakest subject? Maybe you could ask them to help you.
Yeah.
Because we said, right, just do your schoolwork in the morning. Make sure it's bang, bang, bang. Get it done. I've set them extra work as well, to do with revision and teaching them how to take notes and things like that.
But they have it online. They have the teachers online with them.
They do, but not all the subjects. Certainly some of the subjects have their teachers online with them, and they can, go through the lesson and those kind of things. But they've got controls and things. They've got their exams online as well. So, and then they get the results the next day. So, I'm pretty impressed with the ways the schools are coming up, and I think there's probably a huge potential for more online schooling.
I saw recently, just before we jumped on, somebody sent me something which is basically the unofficial, because it's not been announced yet, unofficial breakdown on how they're planning to reopen Italy. And one of the things that kind of took my breath away was they're planning to reopen the high schools in September. So we're here. We finish school at the beginning of June, so there's no chance that school goes back.
Get 3 months,
And then they're planning to open the high schools with a mixture of online and in-person teaching, depending on the situation. So they're still already thinking that far in advance. This is not going to be over by then. Which, when I first read it, and that's something else, that's been a big part of this journey for us, is future stuffing. Oh my God, September, and they still think it's going to be like that in September. And then you start going into the future, and you start going into, how are we going to live like this? How are we going to? Oh, and and I've had to really be strong on boundaries with people around that as well. I cannot live in the future. I cannot think about the future. I've got to keep it absolutely in this day.
Present.
Yeah, this day, this moment. And maybe over the weekend, it's my son's birthday today, so going as far forward as today, how are we going to do that? How will we bake a cake? Otherwise, you really lose your shit. You really lose the possibility to.
I also have the impression, just by with what I do, because I speak out and asking what's going on in the future, what's this all about, what's the learning here, and I kind of got nothing's going to change really before September. And I went, oh wow, so all the summer holidays and everything, that's all going to be, oh wow. So yes, you're right. You kind of like, some people are still thinking, oh, this will be over by the end of May. And I'm thinking, seriously. I mean, for me, the planet is on a detox,
Yeah.
And it's detoxing the population to really appreciate every single little thing and don't take things for granted. Go back to basics, go back home. You start cleaning the house. I mean, everybody here is kind of cleaning and gardening and all the rest of it. And then what do you do once that's all kind of done? Then you have to look at you. You look at yourself last, in my book. You then start looking at what's valuable. What do I really want? Do I really want to work at that job? How do I really want to be with my partner, with my parents, with my kids? So what do I really want? What's valuable to me? Right, what can I make a change to do with that? So I kind of think, it can't be done in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It's like...
I think, yeah. I mean, that's... what I'm seeing at the moment here is that's the ideal. And that's for people like us, maybe, who've been through a lot of personal development and know what it's at and know what we need to do and know how to go inside. What before you even get there is you have to go through an awful lot of fear. So as I said right at the very beginning, the fear originally was against this virus. The fear now has changed, and not so subtly, to the economy, my job, my ability to look after my family and to pay my bills and to feed my family. And here in Italy, and it's, I'm sure it's the same in other places, and it will come up more and more and more. There are people who were absolutely on the knife's edge before this started.
Yes.
And it would take nothing to put them over. So now we're in a situation where I see what you would class middle class people with two good careers going, who've gone from 2 good careers to nothing in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So, where do you look inside there?
I mean, if you look at all the jobs that were, if you look at our generation, leisure was something, travel. I mean, I also, run retreats. One of my main things that I do is I invite, people to come on retreat and sort of like, time out. Clean up the mind, clean up the digestion. We go for hikes, we go to the spa, we do all those kind of really great things that work on the mind as well. I'm like, that's not going to happen. One of my other businesses is that I rent out the studios in the holiday times for sort of people who want to come and explore this area. It's a great touristic area. Not going to happen. Flower shops, hairdressers, touch therapy, all those kind of things. We're thinking those things just won't exist anymore. It really comes down to really what you value, and the fact that we can't get the kind of things that we want in the shops anymore. The boys had one packet of tiny little Easter eggs that we did a treasure hunt with around the garden, and we asked in some of the other shops, and they said, we don't have any and we're not going to get any. Okay, fine. We go back to the traditional way of painting the eggs, real chicken's eggs. We go back to doing things. We've gone back to baking bread. I'm being kind of frugal with the food, I feel like my grandmother. We're doing things in a completely different way and looking at things in health-wise. And we've just planted a great big vegetable patch. We were going to do it anyway, but now it's got like we did it all together as a family. There's real quality in that too. And we're playing games and, making conversations and thinking games about the situation, society. So it's bringing everything back to its roots in a way.
Yeah, you're on one hand, you're very lucky in as much as you have a house with garden space and whatever. Most Europeans don't have that. In the UK we have a different mentality. Your home is your
castle.
Your castle.
Yeah.
And your garden is therefore your ort, or your where you can do whatever you like in it. Here we don't. Here we're really in apartments.
Yes.
Have that luxury. So
if you think about sort of Italy, Spain, France, those kind of countries, yes, a lot of it is to do with apartments, and you're lucky if you have a balcony.
Yeah, and that's our living at the moment is on our balcony. We're lucky. We have half of it sits in the shade all day, the other half's in the sunshine. We can almost, we can move from one to the other. Life has moved on to this tiny little space outside. Of course you have to change, but then, before you get to that, of course you're much more interested in health and whatever than the rest of us. But the journey to reach that stage has been eating and baking and cooking and eating and baking and cooking and eating and baking until you get so sick and tired of it that you start to change.
I love what
and I would say
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I did right at the beginning was beating yourself up the whole time. Oh, we're doing this, we're eating too much, we're eating too much. Let it go. You'll get
I
bored
heard
with
you
it. You'll
say
get bored with it.
earlier that, you know, do whatever it takes to get you through. Because you said that before in a conversation that we had. And I remembered that, and I sort of took that on board as understanding, like, you know, if food is your comfort, don't deny yourself whatever your comfort is, because you need to be able to get through this and get over the fear, and whatever it's bringing up for you, it's going to bring up those major fears. You know, if it's to do with failure, that you feel you failed as a parent, or you feel you failed in your work, or you feel you've chosen the wrong career, or you feel you've chosen to live in the wrong country, or rejection, you're being rejected because, oh my God, you know, there's nothing I can do, there's no work for me, I feel alone. Alone is one of the big ones, you know, that a lot of people are facing, that I'm speaking to. You know, they do, you know, a lot of us have chosen to live on our own, but then you're on your own when you're in lockdown. You can't get out and visit all those kind of things, and there's an awful lot of people who are being, what do they call, sheltered, so they just don't have any contact with anyone. So thank God for the internet, in a way, because we do have a massive way of contacting people, and sort of, you know, I'm more in contact now with my parents than I probably have been before.
Exactly. And you know, my mum is, she, I think the week before the UK went into lockdown, she put herself into self-isolation, because she's in the high risk category. She's got COPD, and therefore she put herself into lockdown, and she hasn't touched another human being now in over a month.
Yeah.
And that's tough, but it's amazing. It's amazing that a woman who refused in every way to have anything to do with tablets, smartphones, or whatever, didn't want any social media at all, is now absolutely adept at making, you know, having video chats with the family.
Yeah.
Needs must. So you know, when something becomes important enough, you find a way to do it.
You do. I think that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I'm on the phone, you know, with my dad on WhatsApp or messaging. I'm sending him photographs of the garden and all the things that he's interested in. He's, you know, in his high 80s. He lives in South Africa. He's just come out of hospital after having, you know, massive bladder infection. My mother was waiting for her heart valve to be changed in the UK, and I went, Mum, to be honest, that's not going to happen. Oh, do you think? And I went, no, Mum, it's not going to happen. It's just not, you know, they're not going to call you in for that. I said, and please get your boyfriend to move in with you. Boyfriend, I mean, God, she's been with him 30 years. Get him to move in with you, you know. I said, because you just, for walking, you know, the dog that you're looking after, my brother's dog, who's in the Falklands, you know, get him to take the dog out, get him to move in, and, you know, share the shopping with you. And if anything happens to you, then, you know, we feel that, okay, everything's fine. So, yeah. And I'm talking to her probably more than I would normally talk to her in everyday life. So, it brings people closer together, I think. And you start working out what's really, really important.
You start working out what and who is really important, and that's what I've.
What would you say you've taken from these 8 weeks then? What would be the most important things to you?
I would say family has become, you know, as you know, I had a big problem for a long time with my mum, and I had to really work on that relationship, and to see how important it was to do that, because without having done that back then, we wouldn't be able to, you know, she wouldn't be able to phone up and say, I'm scared or I'm lonely. She just wouldn't, because she had always to be so strong, and she couldn't let out, you know, she couldn't give an inch. It had to be, you know, this mask constantly. And in a situation like this, we need to tell our truth. We need somebody to hear our truth. So, you know, for me, it was the ability to take a step back from that relationship and let it turn into something, you know, something that we could both work with.
Yeah.
I had no idea whether we'd ever come back together when I did it.
Yeah.
And I see now how important it was. And it was so bloody scary to do it, to take a step back from your own mother. It was terrifying. You know, and I went through so many emotions. The guilt, how could I, a bad daughter, you know, selfish, that, and you know, not just me saying it, other people telling me I was selfish and all of these things. But I knew I had to do it. And, you know, when I see now the results that that gave me, so that's been a huge thing, that the family also, you know, one of the biggest things that I've had to take a huge step back from social media, for instance, and I've had to take a huge step back from so many people that I considered friends. When I see, you know, when I see how they're manipulating this situation to sell products, or they're you know, they're using the, I saw a whole load of, you know, before it hit the UK, for instance, I saw so many posts, people saying, you know, I'm not scared of the coronavirus because I know how to go inside, I know how to heal myself. Great. But there's a whole nation of people that don't have that ability.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, all you're doing is creating separation there. So you go and, you know, you go and sit in your corner and be quiet and let us come together and help each other.
Deal with it.
Because we need, you know, we need to show our, as I said before, we need to show our fear. It's a terrifying situation. Mm-hmm. I've never been physically terrified for myself, but for the people around about me, it's scary from every angle. It's emotional. And now more than ever, you have to let the emotions out.
I like that. This speaking your truth, you know. You and I have talked about this before, you know, living behind the mask, especially with these relationships that we've had with very strong, powerful mother figures in our life. If anything, it's taught us that. And if anything, we're kind of like, thank God we did that, because if we hadn't have had that communication, you know, I've spent years not speaking. We never picked up the phone to each other. So being behind that kind of like, well, I'm okay, just like, you know, and pointing the finger of blame to do with family members or people that you're close to, or the father of my kids and those kind of things. Like, thank God that I worked on that I took the, you know, the time and sort of did the deep stuff so that I could tell the truth and kind of tell the truth to myself first, and then be able to have a decent, honourable communication with someone else.
And you know, and that's all it comes down to. You never, you know, the truth really only has to be for yourself. It never has to go out with yourself. You can choose to share it with someone else, but it's really just about you being honest, completely honest with yourself.
And that changes the energy between people, which allows them to kind of go, oh, well, I feel I can tell you something else now, because you're going to be able to take it. I mean, if you and I both said, like, well, I didn't say anything to that person, be it your mother, your father, whoever, because they wouldn't be able to take it, and the consequences would have been immense, you know. But if you take the charge out of it, then the communication can at least be halfway. So valuable.
No, it's been, for me, that's been the biggest thing. But, you know, also really watching your own energy and staying away from the conspiracists and the spiritual, you know-it-alls and whatever. You know, they may well be true. They may well all be telling the truth. Yeah, I completely believe that where we give our attention, you know, it grows. And I'm sure on a greater, a deeper level somewhere, we've created this, you know, this situation ourselves. Of course,
we're in it. So let's learn how to deal with it.
Yeah, it's not useful to start pointing the finger and say, you know, your fear caused this. This caused. There are people that, you know, are dying because they're dying, and we want to, you know, let's do something about that. And then we deal with the rest of it at the end of it. You know, sitting here saying, oh, what's going to happen, and worrying about it now isn't going to change what happens in 2 months, 6 months, 3 years.
It's all about how we cope, isn't it, in this particular situation. And some people will cope by shutting their doors and, you know, shutting themselves further inside and blaming outside. And others will kind of be able to sort of go through it in a different way. But it's all a coping mechanism. And I love what you're saying there about being able to tell the truth and how you found your, you know, your values about what's really, really important. So what's the biggest thing that you're looking forward to when, maybe in September, maybe whenever we're able to sort of slowly ease our way back into life? I spoke the other day about maybe we're going to be a little bit, oh, really? Big wide world? So it's almost too big, you know, because we're very adaptable and we can get back into our small space and get used to it. So what's the biggest thing you'll notice or you'll enjoy?
I think it'll change things dramatically. So what, you know, one thing that's one of my biggest bugbears here in Italy is When you walk down the street, nobody moves. Nobody moves. It's an Italian mentality. I was here first. I'm older. I'm more established. Without even being conscious, nobody moves, and you find that you walk down the street bouncing it from one side to the other. Now you walk down the street and people run. They absolutely run in the opposite direction, and I don't think that's going to change in the short term. The thing that I'm really looking forward to is making a decision that I want to go somewhere and being able to do it. And it can be for a pizza, it can be to a friend's house for a coffee, it can be to the beach. It doesn't matter where it is, but it's being able to follow my own free will.
So it's freedom. It's having the freedom to choose and say, okay, I can actually.
And in reality, of course, we've got the freedom to choose even now, because we can say, I'm not following those rules, I don't believe in them, and go and, chance getting a fine or being put in prison or whatever. We still have our own free will. We've made a decision to follow what our governments in whatever country we happen to live in have told us to do. So, we're still using our free will to an extent, but the idea of being able to expand that slightly and put my feet in the water, that's what I'm really desperate for.
I know. Yeah, we're both living in countries we weren't brought up in. So it seems strange for us, we chose to live here to be by the sea, and for me up in the mountains, we're not able to go hiking in the mountains because, if something happens, that uses the rescue forces. So, that's just, it's thoughtless to do that. And, nobody's on the beaches. Can you imagine all those surfers where I live? There must be like bear with sore heads and not able to go out into the ocean.
Even with my husband, who was brought up by the sea, every month or 6 weeks he needs to see the sea. Not necessarily go into it, but see it. And I can feel it must be 3 months since he was last there, and he's got that need. It's primal.
It is. These are our values. One of my values that we talk about self-development, but it's so interesting to know what's really important to you. One of my values that I was really kind of surprised about was adventure. And I was like, but I can see now, when I was with partners or when I was not allowed to do certain things, I can see how I was so rebellious because it just pissed me off to the hilt. But I didn't understand why. It's because I need adventure. So, for example, I'm not a very good horse rider, but I know every now and again I need the thrill of living on the edge and having that pounding through my body, the adventure, the thrill of going somewhere new. But if you're with someone who always goes to the same place, always goes to the same restaurant, always goes to the same car park, has the same routine, in the end you die inside, but you don't understand why. So once you understand that, so now I'm thinking, how can I get that thrill, that naughtiness, that mischievousness, now that I'm not allowed to go and do those certain things? It's not wise for me to go and do this. So I'm working out ways of how I do that. So, rough and tumble and vigorous play fighting and things like that with the family, that kind of fills that need for a little bit. But I needed to know what it was that I could do that would replace that in me. Otherwise I would explode.
Luckily I don't have that. I like peace. I like quiet. For me, it really took probably a month to be able to allow that in, to sit on the sofa or sit on the chair outside and just read a book for 2 hours.
Yes.
And without guilt, because there was nothing else to do. But even when there was nothing else to do, I still had that churning in my stomach. I should be. And I apparently know better. I know that I should be allowed to let myself to do this stuff. So again, do whatever you can, whatever makes you feel good.
That's so right, though. For most of us, being able to sit and read a book, even before we had lockdown, was something that I was just accepting and learning. And do you know what? I deserve this. I'm just going to sit here, I'm going to take care of me and read a book. And just, if I feel guilty, I'll let it go through my body and I'll feel it. God, I'm sitting here feeling guilty. I really feel I should be up there doing this, and this. But at the same time, I wasn't helping the rest of the family, who are perfectly capable of cooking, are perfectly capable of finding their own things to do. It doesn't take the mother to arrange all those things all the time, whereas my partner finds it quite easy to be able to sit down. So there's a lesson that you can learn by allowing someone else and watching someone else do those things. But God, this is such a valuable conversation to know how we can live with ourselves, but allow other people to have what they need too.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, we now pretty much as a family share the cooking.
Yeah.
Not because, you know, there was an unspoken rule. It just kind of evolved like that. Oh, I fancy making this today, so off I go and do it. And all the things that, you know, my daughter, who would rebel against any request to do anything, because that's, you know, she's 14, nearly 15, that's her thing. That's, if she wasn't rebelling, I would have to worry more about it. Has found her routine, and she's quite happy to go and play about in the kitchen. And, you know, she's been allowed to come out of herself and soften as well. You know, take her mask off. You know, that's been beautiful to watch, because, you know, I don't know what age it is you go to Liceo in France, but we go at 14. We go to Liceo. So she was in her first year of school, you know, beginning to make her marks. You know, this is who I am, and, you know, of course, this is who I am. It has nothing to do with reality. It's whoever she's decided to be. So she, you know, she had this mask that was really firmly fixed, even at home, and that's begun to come down as well and come off as well. And we're seeing the softer, gentler, you know, the baby again, the little girl again.
Yeah.
The one that, you know, it wasn't cool to hug, is now hanging around our necks, and, you know, can I do this, and stroking her hair, and, you know, just, you know, and we don't have to do anything about it. You know, what you're saying before was so true. We as mothers feel that we've got to control everything, and, you know, we've got to run the household, and actually we don't.
Yeah.
We take a step back and let the household run, and see who wants to step up, and see who needs to step up, and, you know, have the conversations that way. So, yeah, it's, for me, you know, the whole thing, no matter what situation we're in, is about being curious. What do I need to learn from this? What is this teaching me? And it's never immediate. The lesson's never immediate, but it comes up when you just
It'll shape us completely differently to how we would have been shaped, and, you know, the conversations and the families we would have had and all the rest of it. So yes, if it continues on through the summer and through September, then we will all cope, and we will find out so much more about ourselves, and we will be completely different kinds of people and mothers, you know, and allow our children to develop, rather than trying to stick to what is socially normal, but allowing our children to sort of develop and spread their own wings. And, you know, they'll come out completely differently than they would have done if they had have continued to stay around their friends and think they have to make such an impact.
Yeah, and also, you know, what's important to them has, and I'm sure you're seeing that as well, has changed completely. There's no child in the world that says, I can't wait to go to school. And nowadays, you know, the kids are saying, yeah, I really appreciated going to school. I really appreciated even just having to get up and get on the metro to go to school, to, you know, to be shouted at for not having done my homework. I really appreciate that interaction, and I appreciate where my responsibility with it lies now. So they, you know, everything that we parents have been trying to teach them for years, you know, you keep them at home for 2 months and they learn the lesson themselves. So, you know, lesson for us, just get off their backs and let them do it themselves. They'll always get there somehow.
I had that conversation last week as well. My youngest one, who's 13, said, I can't wait to go back to school, Mum. I said, you know, I bet.
I was watching the news last night. I was actually bawling with tears last night. I'm watching the news, and they were interviewing 5 or 6 kids who are just about to do the maturita, which is like the final exam, you know, before you go to university. And of course, they have to do it in a completely different way. They have to do it, you know, online, and you know, and they were all talking about what they'd learned from it and what they were missing. And, you know, the tears were running down my face. You know, leaving school without the ability even to, you know, and one of them said, you know, not even being able to go in and choose my seat to sit my exam in, you know, things like that, you know, that are going through my head. Even that I miss.
Yeah.
And I'm off again at the thought of it, the turmoil that they feel, and of course they'll do it. Of course they'll face it because we're so resilient as human beings. We are resilient and we do adapt to anything that's going our way. But when I was listening to them as well, poor kids, poor kids. Wish there was something we could do for them.
Yeah.
But they're going to come out and they're going to have such a different perspective of the world than we ever could possibly have thought of. So now more than ever,
education. What an education. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really our moment to turn around and watch them and see how they're going to come out of it and learn from them rather than vice versa.
Yeah. I think it's just such an opportunity. It's so great to talk to you about this, to sort of open all this up as well. It's like, really, instead of seeing them as bad students or they're not doing this properly or that kind of thing, just like, wow, what a great human being they're turning into, because being around them a little bit more, you get to know them a little bit better and get to know their feelings and their perspectives and their thoughts. If you open up those kind of conversations, I think it's just fantastic, and allowing them, to be a friend, and you to be their friend, because they're missing their friends so much with the sort of silly interactions. And we play loud music and dance around the house and stuff. So it's great, just talk about all the different ways to sort of allow these kids to sort of fly and give them the freedom to be completely different. Thank you so much, Alison.
No, thank you.
Agreeing to speak to me today, because every single aspect, everybody brings up a slightly different look at the world of how this is affecting us, and I think it's so valuable. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you. You've given me a lot to go away and think about as well. You think you know what you're doing, and then someone asks you a question, you think, that's good. Yeah. So I've taken a lot away from it.
It broadens your mind, doesn't it? To when you have a conversation about it, to kind of, wow, yeah, of course, and you start respecting yourself a little bit more, and you kind of think, do you know what? We're doing this, and you've done this for 8 weeks, so huge congratulations, and congratulations to your birthday in the household today.
My 17-year-old.
This is going to be, something that we have to consider along the way as well, about how do we do those kind of celebrations and allow it to be
lockdown birthdays. And luckily we've got a 17-year-old who said, I understand there are no presents, and that's fine, and as long as you promise me I'll get them at the end of it.
How lucky are we that we have teenagers who you can have a reasonable conversation with. I mean, to be locked in the house with somebody like 5 or 6, who doesn't understand the concept of it all, but they're moving around and they're getting angry and all the rest of it. So, yeah, I'm very grateful that we've got teenagers.
Yeah, I don't know. I was talking to my sister. She's got an 8-year-old, soon to be 9-year-old. Next week she'll be 9, and it's amazing how much they take in and how much they do understand, and how willing they are. My brother-in-law took shopping to my mum. And he took my niece in the car with him, and they were standing, my mum in the garden with 2 meters distance, and them on the other side of the fence talking. And she was saying, I'm so sorry that I can't hug you, Gran. And there's nothing even wrong with me that I can see, but it's better that we don't. It's better that we don't, just in case there's something that we don't know about yet. So they've got it. They understand the why. So adorable. Anyway,
thank you so much, because by spreading what you're learning, it helps everybody else understand. And if people are on their own, then that you've got what you're dealing with, but we've also got what we're dealing with. I mean, you can see, even though we've got teenagers, we're in a completely different environment with that, and trying to sort of keep everybody happy. But my whole purpose of doing this is like just understanding what an inside job is for everybody, and how you are going to cope as a person, not just try and look after everybody else, but how resilient you are and how you're coping. So thank you so much.
And also that we're all in this together, where nobody's alone in it. We're alone, but we're in it together. And that's
but whenever has the whole planet, the whole world been brought together like this, with one common enemy?
Yeah, and we do need an enemy. We always need something to be fighting against to bring us together. Yeah. Whether it's the shitty old maths teacher when you're at school, or that's what creates the team.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your Easter Monday.
Will do. I'm off to start baking a cake now. A bit late, but better late than never.
Bye-bye.
Lovely to speak to you. Thanks,
Fiona. Lovely to speak to you. Bye-bye, darling.
Bye. Bye-bye.